Once upon a time, there was a man named Jacob. Jacob was a young billionaire who had everything one could dream of: luxury cars, beautiful mansions, and enough money to last many lifetimes. But despite all his wealth, Jacob felt incomplete. People in his life were always drawn to him for his riches. Never seeing the man behind the money, Jacob longed for something genuine. He wanted to be loved, not for his wealth, but for who he truly was. So, one evening, sitting alone in his grand mansion, he came up with a bold plan. What if I became someone else? He thought. What if I could experience life as an ordinary man? Someone who doesn't have the world's fortune. And so, Jacob made a decision. He would disguise himself as a taxi driver. The next morning, Jacob purchased an old, rusty taxi. The car was far from glamorous, its engine sputtered, and its paint was peeling. But that was exactly what Jacob wanted. He wore humble clothing, no expensive suits, just simple, everyday clothes. He was ready to begin his journey. Jacob drove his taxi through the streets, picking up passengers from all walks of life. Most of the passengers were kind, but only concerned with where they needed to go. Some didn't even notice the man behind the wheel, and others made polite conversation, asking about his day. But Jacob knew they were not interested in him, they were just interested in getting to their destination. However, one day, something changed. A woman named Maya climbed into his taxi. Maya was unlike the others. She was kind, soft-spoken, and didn't care about the price of the ride or how much money Jacob might have. She was genuine, asking him about his life, not his wealth. They talked about everything: life, love, dreams, and hopes. Jacob was struck by her warmth and sincerity. She paid for the ride with a smile, thanked him, and got out. Jacob couldn't stop thinking about her. There was something about Maya that felt real, something that sparked hope in him. For the first time, he felt like he'd met someone who cared about him for who he was. Days passed, but Maya kept returning. Each time, she asked him more questions about his life, about the struggles of being a driver, about his experiences. She didn't try to impress him with expensive stories or ask for anything. She simply enjoyed their time together. Jacob realized he was falling in love with her, but was she truly interested in him, or just the humble version he had created? He needed to know. So, one day, Jacob decided to share a little about himself. He told Maya that being a taxi driver wasn't easy, that he didn't earn much money. He wanted to see if she would be disappointed, but to his surprise, Maya only smiled. "Money isn't everything," she said softly. "What matters is kindness, honesty, and love." In that moment, Jacob's heart raced. Could it be? Could he have finally found someone who loved him for who he was? Jacob felt ready to reveal the truth. That night, he invited Maya to meet him at a quiet cafe. Nervous but determined, he took a deep breath and confessed everything. He was not a simple taxi driver, he was a billionaire, and he had been pretending to be something he wasn't to find true love. Maya listened, her eyes searching his face, and then she smiled. "I've always loved you," she said, "not for your wealth, but for your heart." Jacob was overwhelmed with joy. For the first time in his life, he had found someone who loved him for who he truly was. But there was still one more thing that troubled him. How would his family react? Would they accept Maya? Would they understand that his choice to love her was not about money or status? Jacob's parents were wealthy and had always hoped he would marry someone from the same background. They were concerned about the family name, the image they portrayed in society, and the expectations of their high social standing. So, when Jacob brought Maya to meet them, his parents were not welcoming. "You don't understand, son," his father, Mr. Weston, said. "A woman like Maya is not from our world. She doesn't have the education, the wealth, or the connections we need." His mother, Mrs. Weston, added, "This is about more than love. It's about securing your future, your place in society. You deserve better than her." Jacob's heart sank. How could they not see what he saw in Maya? She was everything he had ever wanted: kind, loving, and real. But Jacob stood his ground. "I love her," he said, his voice firm. "That's all that matters." The tension was thick, but Jacob refused to let his parents dictate his life. He knew Maya was the one, and nothing would change his heart. Days turned into weeks, and Jacob's love for Maya only grew. But as they grew closer, another complication arose. Maya, seeing how much Jacob had given up for her, began to worry about the consequences. She was afraid of how his parents would react to their relationship, and she didn't want to cause him any more pain. "I want you to go back to your family," she said one night, her voice full of sadness. "You deserve a life that doesn't have to be a struggle. You should be with someone who understands your world." Jacob's heart broke. He had fought so hard for their love, but Maya's words struck deep. Could he truly leave behind his past, his family, for her? After many sleepless nights, Jacob made a decision. He would return to his family, not for them, but for Maya. If it meant keeping her by his side, he would do whatever it took. But when he arrived at his father's office, expecting to reconcile, he found that his father was not the man he once was. His father, seeing the sincerity in his son's heart, had a change of perspective. "I've seen what you've done for love," he said quietly, "and I won't stand in the way of your happiness." And so, Jacob returned to Maya. He told her that he was ready to live a life with her, one, not bound by family wealth, but by love. Months passed, and their love grew stronger. Jacob knew now that nothing was more important than the woman who loved him for who he truly was. Maya wasn't interested in his riches, and that was all that mattered. They started a life together, not in the grand mansions Jacob had grown up in, but in a small, humble house where their hearts were free to love. Jacob had found what he was searching for all along. True love wasn't about wealth. It wasn't about status. It was about finding someone who saw you, not your possessions, and loved you for the person you are. And that, dear friends, is the greatest treasure of all.